Welcome to David and David on Real Estate. Join us as we explore the ins and outs of the real estate market.
Good morning and welcome to the David and David on Real Estate podcast. We are today with a very special guest on episode number 87. Good morning, Holly. We have Holly Carroll today from the agency, and we're really excited to have you on the podcast today, Holly.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Absolutely.
Well, Holly, we got lots to talk to you about.
Yes.
You've got quite an interesting background. We want to hear all about it. We want to know how you got to where you are right now. And then we really, my favorite topic in the world is Muskoka.
Mine too.
So I've been cottaging up there for about 40 years already. So we're going to get into that big time for sure, because I love talking about that place. And now it's nice out. It's cottage season coming up. So we want to get into all that. But let's start with you and your background and tell us your story.
Absolutely. I do feel like everything I've done brought me here. Everything I have done has shaped me into the realtor that I am today, which is great. I was an international model for 17 years. And then I actually started my real estate course in Los Angeles. And I couldn't get a visa and all that stuff. That's for another podcast. But it ended up sending me back home, kind of kicking and screaming, I'm not going to lie, with a broken heart. And somebody told me at that time that I need to pick up my socks and I should enter into a beauty competition. And I ended up winning. So I got all my confidence back really, and just got a purpose again to kind of just, help other people, stand up for my country. And so that's kind of how the reign started. And then real estate shortly after, and I started in Toronto. Didn't really like it. Didn't like it at all. I didn't like showing the places. I didn't like how every place kind of looked the same. I didn't particularly feel like I fit in there. And then as soon as I moved to Muskoka, I saw the magic, started selling the magic, and started living the magic. And David, the magic.
Yeah. So are you from Ontario, from Toronto area originally?
Yeah, I'm actually from Aurelia, which is sort of the borderline of Muskoka, if anybody doesn't know. It's still very beautiful, but again, it doesn't have that Muskoka sort of style.
Right. It's got the convenience of being a little closer to Toronto.
Yes.
But it doesn't have the Muskoka Lakes feel the same way.
No.
Yeah. And so how old are you at this point when you do the beauty contest?
I was 32. So I was still fairly older. And like I said, I had a modeling background, and I started modeling when I was 14, believe it or not. And I did my first 3-month contract in Taipei, Taiwan, and I went there by myself. Sometimes I look back and I'm like, how did I even have the courage to do that?
Wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
What led you into real estate? You went from modeling to real estate, which is, you don't see that very often. They're two completely different career paths, but where did the love for real estate come from?
Totally. I mean, I love people, and I truly do love that whole thing. I mean, I like being a buyer agent rather than a listing agent, I'm going to say. But a lot of people told me that I would be a good real estate agent, and I kind of threw it off for years and years. And I thought, nah, I'm into this and I know what I'm doing. And I gave it a shot. And as soon as I started dealing with people and having some transactions, I'm like, why didn't I start this a long time ago? Yeah. And I am glad that my modeling background and marketing background kind of intertwines now, because essentially you're marketing yourself, right? And modeling is really about marketing. So I know how to market product. So it did help. And like I said at the beginning, all of these things have really shaped me into the realtor that I am today.
Yeah. I think it's some of the basic people skills that you probably learned for your modeling career, to have a self-confidence, to have a self-awareness, to interact with other people. Like those are all qualities that, David can attest this more than me, but because I'm just a boring lawyer. But that's what good agents have. They have that
Yeah.
personality to connect to people, because you're building
Yeah.
relationships and you got to connect to people. They got to find you interesting, and then they got to find you competent, beyond competent, but you have to show that you're confident in what you're doing. You're going to take them to the right place. You're going to get an understanding of what their needs are, and it's not about you, it's about
Totally.
and you build that relationship. And I think probably your background just helped you do that. You're dealing with people all the time.
Yeah, I feel like if you trust yourself, if you love yourself, other people will too. Right? So that's helpful.
And passionate, right? I watch a lot of your real estate reels on TikTok, and not on TikTok. Sorry, I don't have a TikTok account, but on Instagram. and I can see and I can feel the passion you have about Muskoka, right? Like, I don't see a lot of agents posting like, their hiking trails and, hey, I went to this waterfalls and I went, and I saw the stars on this trail and I love it. And here's a hidden gem. Like, nobody markets like that, right? But when you really experience Muskoka the way you portray it, you feel the passion that you
Yeah.
have for the area, and you're attracted to that, right? You're attracted to positive energy. So I think when you kind of approach your career and self-marketing from that point of view, and as a model, you really have to have, those same qualities as well, right? Because people need to be attracted to your positive energy, I think, right?
Absolutely.
It's much more than looks and dressing nice and making sure your hair is done up with nicely, which is something that I never do. I just kind of wear the same black shirt every single day, and I'm a very vanilla type of guy, right? But there's a certain aura that has to be around you that people really get attracted to. So and when I watch your stuff on Instagram, I feel it, and it's really nice to see that.
I think you almost have to become a vibrational match physically, internally to your clients. And, I sell luxury real estate in Muskoka, so I can't really wear the same black top every day. Not that but you know what I mean? Like, I sell the magic of Muskoka. I sell the lifestyle and I live the lifestyle. So, I try to create this emotion when you watch my page or when I have a listing. Like, I don't typically take listings that aren't beautiful waterfront listings. Now, it's not that I wouldn't, but I think that because I'm putting that out there, that's what I'm receiving. And because I market it like that and I get so passionate about it, people are like, okay, I do see the value of you listing my place, et cetera, right? So I love the magic of Muskoka. I keep saying that, but that is the word, right, David? It really is. I love showing that off and being passionate about it.
Are you living up there too?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I have a place in Bala and I also have a place at the Deerhurst Resort. They both overlook the waters and it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah. No, beautiful area. So just going back to the modeling for a second. So when you're 32, you enter a contest. So what was the event? What was the contest?
It was a Miss Canada contest. It was Miss Canada Tourism. And I had to do all the things that you would normally do. So talent and model walk and speeches and interviews. Yeah.
And then so you win that, and then you're reigned for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're traveling all over Canada with that?
Yeah, so I travel over Canada, just shaking hands and kissing babies and being the representative of Canada. Lots of philanthropy, lots of charity work, which I absolutely love. Anybody that does charity work knows how much you get out of doing it.
Right.
And it was just absolutely incredible. It spearheaded me into actually starting my own company, which is called Finding the Beauty Within. And it's for younger women, the ages of 11 to 18, to just help them with their self-confidence and all the things that they have to go through as a young woman, and just to support them.
That's awesome. I like that.
Yeah.
Helping younger generations. It's so important, giving back like that, especially, if you've achieved those levels and you have that self-confidence, be able to instill that in the younger generation is really important. I think grassroots approach to anything is really important. I'm trying to figure out how we can incorporate more grassroots into, help people become passionate about real estate, right? I remember seeing a Monopoly game on the store shelves, and it said something like, hey, if you're, ages 8+ or something like that, and you're going to be lucky if you own real estate in Toronto, right? So, I think we need to change that perspective, and I think we need to help the younger generation realize, how important it is to take small steps and, to think positively about our real estate, right? So the fact that you're doing the same in, with younger women is amazing.
I think that's really great too, to just show other realtors too that it's possible. I mean, I saw one of the questions about why I'm doing podcasts, and that is one of the reasons. Like, I just want everyone to know that they can do anything. I mean, I think we look at a successful realtor and we're like, oof, there's no way. But it's like we all started somewhere as well, right? And you can literally do anything you want if you just put your head down, believe in yourself, and take some action, take some inspired action.
I have a story I wanted to share with everybody on.
Okay.
I was doing an offer presentation once a really long time ago, and I had a realtor that had a really big speech impediment, and he was stumbling, like majorly stumbling across the table. And I was the listing agent, and he brought us an offer, and my seller said to me, let's give it to that guy. And I'm like, no, it's not the highest price, right? But what was incredible is I went back to the brokerage and I checked his statistics, and he was an extremely high level producer. And I said, you know what, good for him for having the courage and the confidence to go out there and to really, not let his speech impediment be a negative, lean on it and make it a positive and build a very successful career out of it. And ever since then, I'm like, you know what? If a realtor comes to me and says, I can't do it, or I don't know how to do it, I say, you know what? If he can sell real estate and become like a really high tiered performer, anybody can do it.
I totally agree with that. And I think we could all find faults that make us not do it. Like when I first started, a lot of people were like, oh, she's a blonde model, don't take her seriously. And I actually let them sort of believe that. I let myself believe what they were saying. And it's like, no. And now I've actually turned it into my strengths. He's turned that speech impediment into his strengths now.
Usually. And it's such a wonderful story, because like sometimes it's really easy to look at somebody that's really successful and say, okay, they have it really easy, right?
Yeah.
But nobody sees how hard and what it took to get there. Everybody just sees a snapshot picture. Okay, this person is driving a Maserati, a BMW, he's wearing a Rolex, he's wearing black t-shirts all the time. I'm kidding. And nobody really understands what it took to get there. Yeah. Right? All the sacrifice, all the hard work, all the late nights, it takes a lot, right? So it's easy to judge a book by its cover, but not really understand what it went into. It took 30 years to write that book.
Absolutely. And it's the inner work too. It's the believing in yourself, which means you have to know yourself. So they went through a lot.
Yeah, you've got to look at yourself critically and say, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? How am I going to be perceived by others? And how do I turn that around? Like, for Holly, what you have to overcome, like just something simple, like, I'm blonde, and so people aren't going to give me the, I got to overcome that because there's a prejudice against me. That's my handicap that I have to overcome, like something simple and stupid like that. But you recognize it and you say, okay, I've got to show them that I actually know what I'm doing, and that there's and that I'm, I have to have confidence in myself so they can have confidence in me, and I've got to prove myself. So that was your idea. David's got a guy who's got a speech impediment. We all have something that we have to find out, like, and then what attracts people to use any of us. Like, what are our strengths? Because you want that to come out. I need my clients to have full confidence that they retain me. We're going to get the result they want at the end of the day, right? Even if they don't get to meet me and they see me virtually half the time. I don't have this luxury you guys do in your business. I'm always jealous of real estate because you get to know your clients way more than I do. We have
my favorite part.
Holly, I'm going to go a little deeper here.
Okay. I'm ready.
so my girlfriend's really pretty as well, and she's a realtor. And her biggest fear when she posts on social media is that, she gets a lot of people hitting on her and writing her messages and advancing themselves on her. And I think, if you're, and this goes same for, really good looking guys and really good looking girls, but I think, that's a major issue in the professionalism of our industry as well, right? So, how do you handle that? And what do you say to a realtor that is going through these type of situations on social media?
I have some personal stories on this as well. So I can relate to her. And I mean, I don't even think you have to be that pretty. There's just going to be some douchebags out there. Hopefully I can say that, I think the biggest thing is you need to trust your gut. Women have a really good intuition. I think you need to trust that. And even if you're overprotective with it, just trust it. Get somebody to come along with you if you have any doubts. I think that vetting people isn't just for their finances. It's for their everything, I mean, just jumping off course a little bit, like I want my clients to be good people. I don't want them to just have a bunch of money. So I want to vet them in all areas of their life, because we really have to spend a lot of time with them. So, if you have, incline that this person may not be safe, do your history, do your research, and just protect yourself at all costs. And if they are serious, it won't matter. If they're not, they'll run for the hills, and you just saved yourself a world of headaches and potentially danger.
So you take somebody to your first appointment, like when you meet a client for the first time, you meet them at the office, you meet them, or you take a buddy with you?
It just depends. I mean, I don't always do that. But I definitely vet them if I have an intuition. If I'm a little, skeptical, yes, 1000%, I'll bring someone from the office, whether it be another woman or a male. Chances are it'll be a male, but absolutely, for the first time, I definitely try to meet them with somebody else.
I think that's such a good suggestion, because you're right. If the intentions are not, pure, that person's not gonna, ask for another meeting or waste any more of your time.
Yeah, and you got to be checking out the referral source. Where did the person come from you in the first place? If it was just totally social media contact out of nowhere, you're more skeptical for a period of time. And I imagine, I can only imagine, because I've never had this issue personally, but I'm just.
Oh, David.
I'm looking forward to the first time it happens.
Like 50 years. So he's with his high school support. And, when you walk into David's office, he has beautiful kids and grandkids, and just probably one of the most powerful love stories I know. And, I'm always very, what's the word I'm going to look? I don't want to say jealous, but I'm really happy for
admired.
Admired, yes, that's the word. Thank you, Holly.
Thank you, David. And I'll tell you something. A lot of my family success with is because, like, my kids and now my grandkids have all grown up in Muskoka.
Oh, I love it.
We have that family time in Muskoka. My in-laws had a cottage, and still have it in Gravenhurst. And my kids, since the day they were born, they grew up there. They spent weekends there with their cousins and their aunts and their uncles and their grandparents, and that's their experience. And we're repeating it now, with their generation, now that we have, my grandkids, they love it. Like that's why it's magic. It's absolute magic.
It is magic.
Right.
And these are memories.
But everybody I know that has that experience has that type of family relationship.
You're building memories.
What a perfect segue into
the
conversation. Nobody could have done that any better than it just happened. But I mean, it's that's family's so important, right? And having those bonding experiences are magical. So that's a great conversation to segue into our Muskoka topic.
Yeah, Muskoka. There's nothing better than building your memories with your family. And there's something about nature and the water and just the views of Muskoka that just make you feel alive and make your soul sing, and because that is a collective sort of feeling, we're all feeling it. Like that story David just said, there's plenty of those stories, right? And it's just simple living. You're cooking on the barbecue, you got the bonfire going. It's not a big thing. I mean, the price tag's a bit high, but it's not necessarily that much stuff. It's just the view, and it's the family, and it's the water.
Well, I always look at it, there's two investments.
Yes.
The real estate investment, and then there's the time investment. And anybody that owns a cottage property knows you put a lot of time into these properties because there's a lot of upkeep, but you're really investing in your own family and your
health.
friends that you get to share up there, and you run around, like nothing makes me and my wife happier than just getting in the boat and cruising the lake and going visit friends of ours, on the lakes up there and spending time with them. So you're investing in that side of your life too. And you get so much back.
Much back. Yep, absolutely. And people know that. So, I mean, in terms of real estate, sorry, there's somebody driving by. In terms of real estate, that's why the resale value will always hold a luxury price tag. Like, it's not going to go down because of that. It's not just a property. It's a full experience.
I've been looking at Muskoka cottages for about 4 years now.
Yeah.
And I will say that in the 4 years I've been looking at Muskoka cottages, the prices have doubled. And they're holding really firm, and it's just mind-boggling. So my family invested in a cottage in Kawartha Lakes on Lake Scugog.
Yep.
You don't have that Muskoka magic. You don't have the beautiful granite rocks, and you don't have the scenery, but it's a stepping stone. And I will get into Muskoka one day. But I have really good friends are on Lake Roseau, and I spend a lot of time up there. And every single time I go to Muskoka, it's hard to replicate that feeling. The boat houses and the topography and the sunset cruises, exploring the boat houses. It's by far one of my favorite things to do in the world. I'm a huge boater. I grew up boating. And I don't think there's any better boating in the world than up in the Muskoka region.
I agree. I mean, National Geographic one year coined it top 4 places to live in the world in the summertime. So it's not just us. I use that a lot in my listing presentation.
You know what? A few years ago, I was lucky enough to go to Italy with all my kids, like, my 6 adult kids, like 3 of mine plus their spouses. Well, spouses now, one got engaged while we were in Rome. And then we were on the Amalfi Coast. If anybody's been, like, it's one of the most beautiful places in the world. And we're sitting out there. Actually, my first grandson was with us too. He was 1-year-old on the trip. And we're sitting there, having a drink, overlooking like the most beautiful place. And I said, you know where all the Italians are right now? They're all in Muskoka. Because it's one of those spots, like, just like we want to go there. Like, there's people from all over the world that really like to go and vacation in Muskoka. Like, it's just one of those spots, and I said it half-heartedly, but I really believe it.
Yeah. It's the Hamptons of the North. Like, there's rich and famous people everywhere here from all around the world.
Yep. Athletes, professional athletes, a lot of Hollywood actors, actresses, up there. It's really quite. So do you focus on the 3 big lakes there, like Muskoka, Rosso, Joseph, or are you dealing with properties on like there's a million smaller lakes too that are beautiful too?
There's actually 1,600 lakes all across Muskoka. I do all waterfront properties. When I originally started, I actually specialized in waterfront properties, and I said I'd go to Kawarthas, Haliburton, and Muskoka, but I quickly found out that was a lot. It's pretty far, and I could only really show a couple properties if I'm driving that far. So I try to focus really in on the Muskoka core, but I will go outskirts if I have a client. Obviously the big 3 are great. They're a bigger price tag, but there was only 40 properties sold last year on Lake Muskoka. That's not sustainable, right? And a lot more agents. I particularly think there's magic in all. So yes, Lake Muskoka is great. You can get from Lake Muskoka to Joe to Rosso, and there's all these restaurants, and it's a vibe. But the smaller lakes also have that quietness and that serenity, and you're not whizzing by with a bunch of boats. So I think that depending on what the client wants, I wouldn't put them on the big three. Just depends on what they want. But I do specialize in waterfront.
So what's your favorite hidden gem or smaller lake or a lake that you would really recommend people to kind of look at, that's under the radar, still close to Port Carling, but has some of that magic with it?
Yeah, so I really like Skeleton Lake because it's got crazy Canadian shield. I'm sure you know, David.
Yep,
It's
yep.
one of the cleanest lakes here.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I mean, there's magic to be found everywhere, right? We know this. We've talked about this many times now. But what I really like, not in terms of real estate, but just in terms of Muskoka, is there's these Muskoka chairs all across Muskoka Lake, and they highlight the views. So again, the magic of Muskoka is the family-oriented aspect, but also the views, the breathtaking views. So there's 10 chairs all spread out around Lake Muskoka, and I'm going to be putting them on my social media. Just a little plug, all of them to see. But yeah, I mean, I try to get up here and see what you feel. It's a feeling when you go through a listing and when you go down to the property and when you go down to the dock. Don't count yourself out if it's not on the big three.
Yeah, and like I said, like there's been so little available to buy. And we cruise the lake all the time. And we're on Lake Muskoka most of the time. We get into Joe once in a while, Rosso once in a while, but mostly Lake Muskoka. I know every bay, every nook and cranny in that place because we just say, okay, let's go for a drive and just pick a direction and we just start tracing the line. So we always see what's up for sale, what's being built, and there's always some action. But like last summer, there was hardly anything. You weren't seeing signs up very often. And then and whatever went up just sold in 2 seconds.
Yeah, there wasn't much. And I mean, there wasn't many buyers either. I mean, everyone kind of went on strike,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's amazing when that happens is that, people are not fire selling these properties, right?
Yeah.
That's the most amazing thing is like, the sellers have the aptitude to say, you know what, I'm going to keep my $6 million cottage. I'm not going to, reduce the price to 5 million or to 4 million to make it a little bit more liquid and to cash out. They'd rather say, you know what, I love my cottage so much that if nobody wants to pay me the price I want, I'm going to hang on to it, and it's only going to go up in value. And I was talking to my billionaire friend that's on Lake Roseau, and he claims that the Chinese money hasn't even come into Muskoka yet.
No.
And most people don't realize this. Like there's still so much more where these valuations can go, right?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of like where these values can get. The Chinese people still haven't even come into Muskoka. They haven't, they're vacationing there in terms of rentals, right? But they haven't been pulling the trigger and buying these properties. Once the Chinese money figures out this Muskoka magic, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen, right? Then where are these values gonna go?
Well, yeah, and it's funny that you say that because a lot of people are like, wow, these prices are insane, but they're gonna go up and they're gonna continue to go up. Get in now. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not going down, that's for sure. It's not that far. Some people that aren't cottagers think, oh, it's the drive. How do you like, being in traffic, an hour and a half, 2 hours to get to your cottage? And they just don't get it. Like I could be door to door in an hour and a half.
Yep.
That's
it. On a reasonable drive. But I've had many 3-hour drives, like on a Friday night when I can't get out of the office till 5 o'clock, and I 8 o'clock and you don't love it, but part of me starts, but when I get there, all worth it. There's going to be and this started, years ago when I was going to my in-laws' place, and my father-in-law would be calling me like, where are you? How far are you? Okay, I'm pouring you a drink now. I'm making a martini now. I said, don't pour it yet. I still got 45 minutes. Like not yet, but he's waiting, and then I was sometimes the last one there. But it was always worth it. Some of the worst drives ever it was worth what you're going to. And there's like, how much is that worth? Like, it's so much, there's so much value in that. You can't monetize it.
Yeah, in terms of real estate prices, it gets a little cheaper the more north you go. And because of that statement in itself, people don't want to drive, but it doesn't matter once you get there. So, if there are people listening that are like, I could never afford on the big three, well, let's look a little north and see if you can. You're still going to get the same somewhat magic and family memories. You just got to drive a little bit further. Who cares? And you time it right. You don't come on Friday.
Well, yeah, that's what I've tried to, the fact that I can work virtually now has really helped that, because I can, get up there in good traffic and then set up and work from there. And that's what, so many people I know now are working from up there. Like, everybody's discovered there's an ability, if you're in the right business, that you can work from there as easy as you can work from Toronto. So you can avoid those long drives, more often. But
Definitely.
even the worst drive is worth it. Like, it's never been
I
a
agree.
deterrent to me.
No.
I'm hating both of you guys a little bit right now.
It's a David, Corbin, and Holly Carroll conversation.
Right, because I can't relate to that conversation, but one day I will.
Hey,
Yeah.
Scugog's a beautiful lake too.
It is actually. It
There's some
really is.
beautiful properties on that
Yep.
lake.
Yeah, and the location is fantastic, right? Because I'm an hour and 15 minutes door to door in any traffic conditions, right? So just to rub that into you a little bit, David. But it's great, and I relate to the feeling, like, when we get into the car, by the time we get to the cottage, all our issues, all our problems are out the window. And when you open the door and you step foot on on the property, it just, there's this aura, and you're like, okay, we actually joke that that's our happy place. And it's amazing how much you relax when you get there.
Yeah. You sleep better, which essentially will help you deal with any problems that you have better anyways. I mean, usually it's sleep and just nature that you need. It's crazy that we just need these simple things, and Muskoka has it, or any cottage really has that.
Yeah, and I love the charm of the various towns. That
Me too.
I'm in Gravenhurst mostly. We're in Bala a lot. We have friends in Bala. We're going through there. I take my kids when they were little, just to go to the falls, just to, we're on this side, we're on that side. You walk around, like, all the little restaurants, the ice cream shops. Bracebridge has a different charm. It's like the big city in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Port Carling is an amazing place.
Love Port Carling.
Love to walk around there, and you bump into people, and you got the restaurants there and stuff. Like, that's part of it too. Like, you're really out of the big city. And even when you got to go shopping somewhere, it's different. You get that small town friendliness.
Yeah.
And everybody's excited to be there.
They really are. And I mean, take it even one step further. You can actually boat to most of these cities, which is crazy. So,
right.
I mean, just being on a boat and then docking and going for lunch and going shopping and going, whatever. It's just such a beautiful feeling.
Mm-hmm. I rented a cottage on Mirror Lake, which is just as you're, motoring into Port Carling off of Lake Muskoka. And we got the idea to kayak into Port Carling. So we actually kayaked into Port Carling and went to the LCBO and went to a couple of small restaurants. And we're like, oh my God, we have to kayak back. And there was this couple getting into their boat. And they're like, well, we'll give you guys a lift. We're like, okay. So we put the kayak on the back of the boat, got into this nice Centurion bow rider with them. And it's like a 4-minute boat ride back to the cottage that we were staying at. But we got to know this couple, and he was a retired mattress salesperson, super nice. Wow. And they're like, well, you guys don't have a boat you're renting here, you only have kayaks. Why don't we come pick you guys up in the evening and we'll give you a tour? We've been vacationing on Lake Muskoka for 40 years. Our family owns this island over there. We'll give you guys a tour. So we're like, great. So they came back actually at 7:00 that night. We made a big charcuterie board, like a massive charcuterie board with like cheeses and salami and grapes. Took the charcuterie board on this boat. They were shocked and surprised. We took a bottle of wine with us as well. And we had the most amazing sunset cruise. And we still keep in touch with those people to this day. we still message back and forth, and they're going around and explaining and giving us the history of this bay and that bay and this cottage, and my friends built over here, and it was the most wonderful experience ever, just to tap into their knowledge, and they've been there for 40 years, and it was, to this day I still have goosebumps when I think about that moment.
And they were strangers the day before.
Strangers.
Like that
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
so cool. I have a cool story too. There's one of the lakes that's actually near Gravenhurst, and it was one of my first memories of Muskoka. I went, my friend had a really great cottage there. We all came, and and there was a place that wasn't always open, but you could only get there to boat. And it was basically like a corner store, convenience store, where it had whatever, it had ice cream, it had earrings, it had whatever you want. And it was on an honor roll system. Only in Muskoka, I'm telling you. So you just write down what you bought and you put it in. And I thought to myself then, I'm like, how do people not get robbed, right? Like, how does this not get robbed? And my friend said, honestly, Holly, at the end of the year, they actually end up making more, because people are just like, thank you so much for the convenience. You can get ice there, you can get whatever. And they end up making more, because that's just how it is here. Everybody gives.
I love that.
That's funny. When my kids were little, my boys, I took them golfing someplace just off 118. There's a little 9-hole golf, Milford Manor or something like that. And it was an honor system there. They had a little box, and you put in your $5 or $1 a hole or something like that, whatever you're going to play, in an envelope, and you leave it there, and you go play. And I go, no, this can't be right. Like, where's the cameras? I didn't want to do it until I found somebody else. I said, is this right? I'm just supposed to leave a few dollars here? And you go, yeah, no, that's it. It's just honor system. And the last thing you would do is rip them off, because, they're using a few dollars just to cut the grass and maintain this golf course. But that's part of the charm of being up there. Oh, and by the way, David, I can tell you where the OPP usually hang out on the lakes. When you're cruising with your bottle of wine, I can tell you where to where you shouldn't be.
Hide under the jacket. Yeah. Sorry if I actually said that on air. It was
it was the non-alcoholic bottle of wine, just for reference.
Absolutely, just to keep everything legitimate.
Yeah.
But anybody who hasn't experienced Muskoka, Holly, like how can people actually go and should they rent a cottage? Should they, go to one of the hotels? Like, for people who haven't really experienced Muskoka, what should they do?
Well, most of the places are rentable on Airbnb. Yep. I get that. I mean, if it's not necessarily in your price range, you can still get something off water, and then just because like we said, all the cities are on water anyways. You can rent a boat for the day. But yeah, I'd rent with your family and come up and see what it's all about, see what the magic is about. Most people that come here come straight to me and they want to buy a cottage. It's funny because it's starting to get nice here, but until it gets nice is when people are like, when they come to a rental, they're like, okay, I need a cottage. I need this in my life forever. But it's almost like they've waited too long. So I try to encourage everybody, talk to me now, so we can get you in a cottage by the summer, but nobody ever listens. But I would definitely encourage everybody to rent a place with their family, see what the magic is about.
Yeah, and some of it, it really depends on their lifestyle too, and what they like. And like Holly, you said, like, the cottage waterfront properties are very limited, especially on those big lakes, and it might continue that way, but there's a lot of development going on off the water right now. You've got communities like Muskoka Bay Golf Club and all the construction that's going on there, and different types of housing. And some people choose that because part of their lifestyle is, I want to be able to golf, I want to go to the club, and then maybe we keep a boat there and we can launch it at the Muskoka Wharf, or we get a boathouse there, so they have access to the water differently. So there's a lot more of that going on right now, because a lot, I don't know, I'm in the Gravenhurst area, so I see there's tons of construction going on, like condos, semis, detached homes. And so there's a lot of that, but people still want access to the water somewhere. But that's very different than being waterfront.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, it's a lot of work. It can be a lot of work to bring everything up to the cottage, right? So I do see a lot of people that haven't necessarily owned a cottage or been to a cottage. They love that route where they just go to Muskoka Bay or Deerhurst because everything's still close by. They can still get to experience it, but they kind of just go and it's like a hotel living. Everything's kind of taken care of for them.
Right.
I guess my question is, as Muskoka keeps getting built out and we have more of these condos and more of these houses going in and more people have access to the water, do you lose some of that magic?
I mean, possibility. I can't really say no, but again, like I said at the beginning, there's a collective energy here, so that if you come up here and you don't really feel it, you probably won't stay. And I even have a client right now where he absolutely loves it and his wife doesn't like it. And that's why I'm selling it for them. And she's just not her style. She doesn't like the remoteness. She doesn't like how, quiet it is. And that's their opinion. But there's some people that just won't be able to feel it. And I don't think they'll stick around. I don't think anybody can come in here and change it, because there's too many of us that are alive here and we're emanating this energy of the magic. It's hard to dull that magic, if that makes sense. That was a little a frou-frou answer, but you guys get it, right?
No, for sure. I completely get it. And, if you don't belong, then you're not going to lay down roots and you're not going to have 4 generations like the Kormans have. Lay down roots in Muskoka. That's just not going to be something that you're interested in, right? So, and just people that don't belong are not going to find themselves there for the long term. So completely makes sense for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, look, and some people look at, cottage living, well, the season is so short. It's just, it's 10, 12 weeks of the year when you got the great weather. But those of us that really get it, you try and make it a 12-month thing.
Yep.
Like wintertime is magnificent up there. The fall, going for the hikes and the trails in the fall weather, like, is fabulous. Like as the seasons change up there, there's different things you could do and be experiencing. So you just, but you have to have comfort. But we know lots of people that they go in the summer, 10, 12 weeks, shut it down. That's it. So when you're doing that, it's a lot of work for a very limited period of time. But if you make it a place you can go to year round, right? Like, I
agree.
Holly, you like the trails and doing all that stuff.
I do. I love it. There's so many hiking trails here for all levels too. Doesn't necessarily have to be a huge hike, but like I said, it's the views. So all of these hiking trails have views. They have waterfalls. They have places to jump off in the water. It's just a good way to have a little bit of exercise, but also, be in nature.
Mm-hmm. So guys, let's get into the technical aspect of Muskoka real estate a little bit. If you're looking to buy a cottage, right, what considerations should you make? Because I mean, I know for example, like there has to be a certain frontage to have a boathouse, for the people that don't even know what a boathouse is, Muskoka is one of the few places in the world that actually has boathouses underwater, and they're kind of like a garage where you keep your boat. But why even bother having a boathouse? What are the benefits? Why have a 4-slip boathouse? How many boats do you need? Value there. Like, let's talk about some of these technicalities, because there's tons of them. Even the exposure. Where's the do you get to see the sunsets? Do you see the sunrise? How does that impact your living? There's a lot that goes into these places. What kind of sewage system do you have? What kind of septic system? Municipal water. What is your water refill rate? Like all these things matter, and they have an effect on the quality of life, right? So let's get into some of the little technicalities.
Sounds good.
What buyers should really beware, and what should they think about when they're starting their Muskoka property search?
I think the overall answer to that is to find a real estate agent that actually does cottages. It doesn't, I'm not going to say it has to be a Muskoka agent, because there are agents that know cottages that aren't in Muskoka. So I'm not going to go ahead and say that, but know somebody that does know, because there are a lot of things that are going to be different that aren't normally for what you've seen. like you mentioned, the septic. There's septic, there's holding tanks, there's municipal water. Those are 3 different ones that we need to be aware of. Now, when it comes to water frontage, every single lake has different restrictions. So again, find somebody that knows that. Generally, the rule of thumb is 200 feet. You can actually build something on the water. That's general, that can change. But the reason why we have boathouses is sometimes it's kind of far from the cottage to the boathouse. So you want to be able to have all your stuff down there too. You want to maybe even have a bar down there. Sometimes they even have living spaces above. I mean, it's that classy thing that you can do with the boathouse. In terms of exposure, most people think Western exposure is the best because, I mean, you get the sunset and you probably have sun all day. I am an Eastern exposure lover.
Really?
That might be because, yes, that might be because I live here. So I think it's different if you live and you vacation, because I love waking up to the sunrise. Love it. And in my mind, I'd rather have the sun and then it go away sort of in the late afternoon, because that's just too much sun. Like, you're tired. I find Western exposure is sun all day. But again, it just depends on what you're using it for, how long you're going to be there, what your preference is, if you're a morning person, if you're a night person. Northern exposure is the least liked because generally it's not that much sun. You're getting very little sun. South is good as well. But again, like I said, it's get to know your clients, what you want, because I think a lot of people think I got to be on Lake Muskoka. Yes, I'm on Lake Muskoka. I love Lake Muskoka. David's on Lake Muskoka. We get it. We get the magic of it. But get to know your clients and get to know what they sort of want and work in between those lines, because there's so many other beautiful spaces that are being overlooked because they're not on the big 3.
And Holly, why do people have like 4 boat slips and 5 boat slips? 6 boat slips, and some of these boat houses are grandfathered and you can't get 6 boat slips anymore, and like what is why do you need 6 boat slips in Muskoka?
Well, you don't. You don't need that many boat slips. I think that when this all started and Muskoka started, it was a lot cheaper and a lot easier to get away with a lot more. So why not have 6 boat slips? But they're trying to monetize that a little bit more. That's why it's grandfathered in. It cannot be done anymore. David, do you have something to say about that?
Yeah. Well, there were some areas on Lake Muskoka in particular that I'm familiar with. Like, there's one area that Holly would know called Millionaire's Row.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these properties are actually on islands.
Mm-hmm.
And because some of these are on islands and they go back so far, they needed certain boats to get all their stuff there. Like, now that a lot of them have pontoon boats just to get from the marina and bring all their stuff over. Then they've got a ski boat, and a lot of them have these antique boats, and sometimes more than one, which are more like hobby boats, and they're stunning. Like, and they just cruise around when the conditions are right. And so sometimes they need an extra couple slips because they're housing those type of toys, right?
Or their friends.
And then they might have a sailboat or something, so they need another slip to keep their sailboat. So all of a sudden, some of these older properties in particular had a whole bunch of boat houses and boat slips in there, and they're magnificent properties. They really are. And some of these boats, like, I'm sure, Holly, you've seen a lot of them, like, they just parade around and they have different shows in different towns when everybody shows up with these things, and they're unbelievable to look at.
Unbelievable. I mean, I guess it's like, why would you have a 6-car garage? It's kind of the same thing. Like David said, a lot of people are hobby fanatics, and there's some beautiful boats. So they don't necessarily drive that one all the time. That's not the grocery getter. And then, of course, when their friends and family come to visit, if they do have an island property, they can park that there too.
Yeah, the island properties are the wild factor for me, right? Because we had Teresa Moretsky on the podcast, and she owns an island property. We got into talking a little bit about the benefits of island properties and the serenity and the calmness, and you feel like you're by yourself. I mean, there's a whole different aura, I think, with island properties. For me, island properties scare me a little bit because they're just so secluded, and it's a 40-minute boat ride back to the civilization. But I see the magic, and I think if you're in an island property, like you're really detached from everything, right? So totally get it. And yeah, I mean, it's something that you have to go out there and experience, I think.
There's also a
Yep.
price benefit to island properties, right?
Definitely.
Holly? Like you're gonna, if you're looking for, to get your foot in on
Yeah.
sometimes that's the way you have to go, because you'll save some money by being on certain islands. If you have your own island, it's going to be pretty expensive, but you're one of the bigger islands that with others, but that's the only access. You're going to get that property, a lot less expensive than across the street on 169.
Totally. I love island properties. I mean, I think the main reason why it's cheaper is because obviously it's less accessible, but it's also only seasonal. And I mean, maybe in the winter you could take your snowmobile there, but there's a lot more that goes into sort of maintaining it as well. So, but I think they've got magic, like you said, David. They've got magic too.
Yeah, it's a different lifestyle.
Yeah.
I think on an island, you have to be organized. You have to like reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is not to say, Holly, you wrote a book.
I did.
You're an author.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
So it's called Selling Secrets You Can't Afford to Miss. I made it for my clients, basically, and other realtors. It's basically a step-by-step on how to sell your house. Now, it's not like I give them the book so they can sell their house, because even if I gave somebody all the information, they probably still wouldn't do it. We still have to do, like we said, that inner work and become a realtor. So I give it to them so they know, but I also help them sell their house. It's probably information that most people know, but I think that we've gotten away from traditional real estate and just the basics of real estate. And that's why I wanted to write the book. I am working on a second book called Closing Deals in Heels. And it is more of a personal, vulnerable book of my story and some of the things that I went through. And it's more to inspire women in the industry.
Well, that's great. Good for you. So when
Thank
is
you.
that going to be out?
I can't tell you because it's a bit of a work in progress. It's pretty much done, but I find that I keep growing and learning, and then I go back and change it. So until I feel comfortable and that I've healed all those wounds, will I release it? I'm hoping next year, though, in a simple answer.
That's so awesome. And Holly, something personal I've learned about you is that you don't drink.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fascinating because it's a really hot topic item. And we had another guest speaker at the podcast, James Jones Clark, and he's sober now for I think like 3 years or 6 years, something like that. But huge accomplishment. And in preparing for that podcast, we pulled a whole bunch of statistics, and both David and I think we were shocked of how rampant substance abuse is in our industry, especially for professionals, right? So hearing that somebody of your caliber has made that decision not to drink was really inspiring for me to hear. So tell us a little bit more about that.
I think I heard the voice in my head saying you need to stop drinking long before I actually stopped drinking. I was always a very passionate, motivated, inspired person, and I was doing all the work, but I was still drinking. And I kept getting inspired to stop, but I realized I couldn't. I actually realized that I couldn't, and I kept trying. And I was like, well, I went all week without drinking, so I deserve a drink. And this mind game that I was playing with myself. And just to set the record clear, like, I'm not against drinking. Drinking for me just wasn't serving my highest purpose. And it was taking more than it was giving in my account. And so I decided I'm going to stop, even if it's just for a year. Like, I'm going to stop and I'm going to take this seriously, because I am wasting my potential. And there was a lot of other things in my life that were showing up that alcohol was attached to that weren't necessarily good, relationships. And so I thought, okay, I need to take responsibility for my success or lack thereof. I need to take responsibility for myself. And so I stopped drinking January 21st, 2021. But that was just the beginning. I actually started doing really deep inner work, and I started to know who I really was. I think the drinking kind of numbed all that. And so I really took a deep dive of who I was, not the pageant queen, not the model, not the realtor, like who I really was inside and what gifts I had to give to the world. And I became conscious and I became uber confident because I ended up loving who I was, the good, the bad, the ugly. And I radically forgave myself for anything that had ever happened. And I just took all the hollies and moved forward. And now I help other women get sober, and I actually empower them to help other women get sober.
I love that. I think, when I heard that about you, that's the one thing that probably impressed me the most.
Thank you.
Getting to know you. So I think that's so empowering. And I think there's so many people that struggle with that inner fight. And I know exactly what you mean about, hey, I haven't drank for, a couple of days. I deserve that drink. And I think it's really empowering to be able to, not have that argument with yourself. And really take over your life and just be the best version of yourself and help others achieve that same feeling. I think alcohol is poison, right?
Yeah.
And listen, I still drink. I mean,
Fair enough.
But I think just being conscious of this issue is important for everybody to really kind of examine and ask themselves those important questions.
I think it's just so important to be self-aware and conscious, and it's very hard to do that when you have a substance that's sort of weakening your mind, right? We all talk about mindset now. We all talk about that. That's not a hidden thing anymore. And it's a bit of a fight. It's a lot harder to do when you're hungover. It's a lot harder to do when the negative thoughts are creeping in because of the antidepressant or because of the depression, right? So again, I don't think everyone needs to quit drinking, but there's probably one thing listening to this podcast that you could give up today, whether it's negative thinking, whether it's binge watching TV, whether it's, the people that you surround yourself with.
Holly, I can't tell you how impressed I am hearing you say this and how inspiring it is. No, I mean it like really sincerely, because it's a tough battle for anybody dealing with something like that. But I'm listening to you on top of, where you're living, the lifestyle you're living, cottage country. I talked about how much I look forward to getting, my drink when I get up there. It's really part of the lifestyle. Now,
Yeah.
it's a little different. You're getting up there for the weekend and you're enjoying for the weekend. That's different than if it morphs into, well, the weekends now includes Monday, it includes Tuesday. We're going to get there Thursday. And before you know it, it's every night of the week. But I think, you faced a challenge that a lot of people wouldn't to overcome because you're part of that lifestyle. You're invited to someone's cottage and there's, you're not against other people drinking, but it's there in front of you all the time. And you have to have tremendous willpower to say, yeah, I'm great. I'm coming, I'm going to have a great time with you. I'm going to have my club soda with lime or whatever you're choosing, but I'm not putting any vodka in it, right?
Yeah.
That's tremendous willpower, especially because it's part of the lifestyle, the social lifestyle up there.
And I think that's the reason why it's so predominant in real estate agents, because it is the lifestyle. It's like, I think I got a bottle when I signed up for my first brokerage, like, welcome to the club. And it was like that I drank back then, but it is the lifestyle. I will say that gets easier. At first, I couldn't even go out. Like, I basically hid from the world for 3 months until I got a handle around it. I couldn't go to a bar. I couldn't go to events. But it gets a little bit easier. Like, there's drinks that I like to drink, and my mind doesn't really know the difference, but I don't wake up with a hangover. So I'm still in the social game and I'm cheersing, but it's just mine doesn't have vodka in it.
Right. You can still go to the Key to Bell, enjoy a concert.
Yes. Yes. I just feel like I go there all the time. Yeah. So I have a place 3 cottages down from the Key.
Oh, you're right there. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, I just feel like I have a higher purpose, that I'm not put on this world to drink. I'm put on this world to help others, not drink.
Well, the fact that you're not only looking after yourself, but you're willing to help others, from the young girls that you're helping to people that might, have a drinking problem or something like that. Like that's unbelievable to give back to the community. And that's part of what any successful real estate agent or a successful lawyer would, should be doing, and it's really something to not only look after yourself, but say, okay, I've learned something from this. I can help others too.
There's no doubt in my mind that's the reason why I am successful. And it's the reason why I'm sober. Is because I'm helping these other women. No doubt in my mind. I think that if I stopped helping, and I just kind of let my foot off the gas, I would probably become less successful and I'd probably start drinking again. For sure.
Well, Holly, we always have guests on here where David and I are like, we need you back for a second, a third, and a fourth podcast. Because I feel like there's still so much more to talk about. You and I also messaged on social media, and we said that we're gonna take this to Muskoka and we're gonna actually go out and show people. So would love to do that, and I'd love to show people and help them experience that magic a little bit more. But thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for coming on the podcast. Like, it was absolutely incredible. Thoroughly enjoyed having you on, and really inspirational, like David said, to hear your story, to hear you overcome adversity, and we look forward to really big things from you in the time ahead, for sure.
Thank you so much,
Holly. An absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Look forward to I want to get your first book, and then we'll have you back on for sure by the time your second book's out, if not sooner. We should do it in the summer, like when we're in the middle of cottage season. We should have
I agree. I've got a pontoon boat, so we can kind of set it up and just coast.
That's the best.
That would be something else for sure. All right, guys, thanks so much. Thank you guys for joining.
Guys.
Thank you.